Welcome to Dark Docent. My name is Jake. Join me as I guide my friend James down the paranormal rabbit hole, attempting to prove the authenticity of a new case each week. Today's case, the Berkshire UFO Incident. How you doing today, James?
I'm not too bad, I suppose. How are you?
I have had a string of bad luck recently.
You have?
I have crashed my truck. Luckily, only cosmetic. And I've also smashed a window out of my machine, which was neat.
You also spilled a bunch of coffee on yourself.
I also did that. It's been a rough couple weeks.
Do you think it has something to do with Robert the Doll?
I'm no longer speaking his name. That should tell you enough.
Maybe it's because I did those cool Photoshop edits with him, and it was coming back to haunt you again somehow.
Yeah, maybe he hates you even. You keep doing stuff with Robert, and then I get the brunt of it, which is great.
Well, let's see how far we can go with it, eh?
I would let it keep happening if you change your answer on Robert the Doll.
I wonder how many times Robert the Doll has appeared in the Epstein files.
Okay, just go over what I just said. That's fine. Probably a stupid amount. I think he's one of the co-conspirators they're not naming.
Yeah, Robert the Doll, J. Edgar Hoover. Never mind, we're just going to move on.
Well, James, there's a lot going on in the news today involving all that. But today I have a bit of a palate cleanser for you.
Perfect.
Something a little more fun. Something to take the edge off. There's been too much serious stuff going on. But just because this is a different sort of case, doesn't mean it's not a big case and that it's not as interesting. I have a story for you. And if anyone wants to follow along, all the case photos will be posted on our Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. September 1st, 1969, Berkshire County, Massachusetts. Jane Green is driving home from Stockbridge to Great Barrington with her friend Mary just after dusk. As they're driving, they're just talking along, just small talk about their days and what's been going on, when all of a sudden they see a massive light up ahead in the road. Now she assumes that it was a police stop or a big accident. It looked like possibly police lights and floodlights all around the area. But as they got closer, the lights only got brighter and bigger, to the point that Jane couldn't drive anymore. So she pulled over her car, as well as the car in front of them. When she got out, she saw the lights were not on the road, but they were in the sky. She saw a massive craft, so big that when she looked left and right, she couldn't even see the ends of it. She said that it was very tall and completely silent. Her quote is, "If I get Alzheimer's, the one thing that'll stick in my mind is what happened." She looked at it for what felt like an eternity. But within seconds, the craft lifted, moved slightly left, lifted once more, and then shot over the nearby mountain range in a second. Now, Jane was a non-believer. She thought mumbo jumbo had the same credence as aliens. And she was in absolute disbelief of what she just saw. So she drove to the drugstore that her family owned, and she told her husband. And her husband said, "You should go and report this to the radio station." So she went to WSBS, the local radio station, and talked to the director, Tom J. She told her story about this massive craft in the sky. And it was so big and so bright, it was none like anything she'd ever seen. Tom J replied, "You and Mary must have been drinking again." Quote, "It must have been swamp gas." But she was adamant that she was telling the truth. But eventually, Tom J's discredit of what she was saying to her just caused her to leave. And she just stopped telling the story. Because, of course, it's insane to talk about flying saucers. They're not real, but she still doesn't know what she saw. However, Tom J will soon regret disregarding Jane's story. Within hours, the radio station was inundated with calls about massive UFOs all over Berkshire County. He was so concerned that he called the police over the amount of calls that he was getting in. He actually went on the air and asked the public where this thing is and if they could track it. That only caused the calls to get even bigger. He was getting phone calls from all over Western Massachusetts and even Connecticut. And we have reports from people who saw the craft, reports of people who chased the craft, and reports from people who were taken aboard the craft. James, have you heard of the Berkshire UFO Incident?
No, I've definitely not heard of this one.
This is kind of a rare one. Not many people bring it up because a lot of people actually kept their mouths shut after this case happened. It's one of my favorite UFO stories, and it's because not only were there several witnesses from this entire county, but several abductions.
That's quite the combo. Normally you don't get both.
Yeah.
Also, that explains why you're wearing an alien and UFO t-shirt.
I was hoping you'd notice.
So she saw a super bright light as she's driving.
Yes.
Pulls over, gets out. Was she able to see the craft, or was she just blinded by the lights?
She could see the craft,
right,
but she couldn't tell what color it was.
And then this thing that she couldn't see either side of it was so big, flew away off over the mountains in a second.
Yes, completely silent. And the other car in front of her saw the same thing.
I'd probably hit her with a, yeah, right, lady, as well.
You and everybody else. But you can't say, yeah, right, to several witnesses.
You don't think I could?
I don't think you could. Not in this case.
Not to their faces. I'm too shy for that.
Well, James, let's get into our first witness. Our first witness today is Melanie Kirchdorfer. She was with her family around Lake Mansfield, which was about 2 miles away from Great Barrington, kind of in the same area of where Jane saw the craft. Melanie and her family, which is her sister, her dad, and her mom, all went out to get Dairy Queen. And they were driving up to Lake Mansfield to park and eat. And she remembers backing into a parking spot, having her ice cream, and then all of a sudden, the entire car being surrounded in a bright light. She remembers her father leaning forward and looking up through the windshield and saying, "Holy shit!" And they just started screaming. They didn't know what was going on.
That's what I usually like to do when I don't know what I'm looking at, is start screaming.
I don't think you screamed once on this podcast.
Makes people really comfortable when other people just start screaming.
Yes, 100%. It really eases the situation. Lack of communication crossed with loud noises always helps.
Yeah.
Their mom tried to calm them down. She turned back around and looked at them both and said, "Don't worry, it's just a shooting star." They did not believe that it was just a shooting star. I mean, their entire car was lit up like daylight. Their father, Joe, also a level-headed man, should have calmed down his daughters. But Joe was a man of action, and he said, quote, "We gotta chase it."
Hell yeah, Joe. Hell yeah, man.
The girl starts screaming, "No, don't chase it! What are you doing?" But it was too late. Joe had already put the car in gear and ripped it out of the parking stall.
Hey, Peter, let's go find that UFO.
God damn it, I didn't even realize that. Fuck. Well, before Joe could actually get up to a good speed and chase this thing, the next thing they know is they all blacked out. And Melissa remembers floating towards the craft. She then blacked out again. And she was in a room. She was sprawled on what she described as an operating table. And as she looked around, the entire room was filled with other kids of similar age. She remembers each one just disappearing, one by one by one. And then eventually, she woke up, alone, beside Lake Mansfield. No car, no family. Now, she didn't know what she just experienced, so she decided to walk home. And eventually along the way, she found the rest of her family, all alone, and found the car, all at her house.
How old was she?
She was 14. So this is not like a young kid.
No. And her family and the car were already at home.
From what I've seen, the car was at home and the family was all walking back to the house. From what I've seen. But I could be wrong. But what I know for sure is that she was alone beside the lake when she woke back up. But the first thing I thought of when I heard the story is it sounded a lot like Travis Walton being splayed out on an operating table. But the weird part about this one is that there's no hypnosis involved. These people are just having like flashes of memories, which I think honestly helps this. Because even though I do believe in hypnosis helping people with regressional memories and stuff like that, having just glimpses of memories from this without hypnosis to even suggest something that didn't happen, I think helps the case a lot. What do you think about Melanie's story?
I think it sounds like quite the story.
It does.
It made me think briefly of that time I floated down the stairs, and it's just kind of a blip of a memory.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I don't know. So, what was her family's reaction when she walked in? Is there anything more on that?
No, they kept quiet. Apparently, they just stopped. They just didn't talk about this.
It's weird that they weren't out looking for her.
I think they all just came to in different parts. But
Yeah.
the thing that's weird is this isn't the only time this happened to people that night. We have other people who were also taken aboard the ship. And we have people all over the county that saw this craft. What I've noticed is this case became popular in the last couple of years because it was a focus on one of the Netflix adaptations of Unsolved Mysteries. From what I could see, that's like one of the first times it got really broadcasted all over the place, was on Netflix. But before this, people stayed quiet. And actually a lot of the communication happened when Netflix was coming to Berkshire County and began interviewing people. And then people started saying, hey, they're interviewing me on this sort of thing. Or, you know, they'd tell their friends like, I have to tell you something because you're going to see me on Netflix. This happened to me years ago, 50 years ago, and you should know before you see it on Netflix. And then the people would reply, you saw it too? Like people just shut off and didn't say anything. And that's an example of how back then, no internet, no nothing. If you just didn't say anything, it wouldn't go anywhere.
A mixture of sleepwalking and breathing in too much swamp gas. That's what I say.
Okay, you say that, brother, but I got another witness for you. This is the story of Tom Warner. He was 10 years old. He was over at a friend's house. Her name was Debbie Shaw. And also Debbie's older sister, Jane Shaw, was there as well. And they were coloring together. As they were coloring, just hanging out, Tom looked up and started to walk towards the window. He was drawn to the window for some reason. He doesn't know why. And when he went over and looked out, he heard a voice. The voice said, "You need to go home. Now." It terrified him to his core. And he turned and started to run towards the door. He told Debbie, I have to go home now. I have to leave. And Debbie and Jane are like, what's happening? Who told you? Why do you have to leave? He said, I don't know. I think God. And he just ran out the door and started running across to his house. It was just across like a small field. Jane said that the night that he ran out of the door, it scared them half to death because they didn't know what was going on with him. So Tommy is running at a high speed, just trying to get back to his house. And then Jane and Debbie looked outside. Tommy's running in place. He's not moving. And then he was hit by a beam of light. Tommy then shot his arms back and began floating in the air. Tommy said he remembers seeing the UFO drop out of the sky and hit him with the beam of light. It felt like all of the air was sucked out of him. And after the light hit him and he floated up, Tommy's gone. And we have witnesses that all saw Tommy disappear.
The two sisters?
The two sisters. And they didn't know where Tommy was. And they were terrified. They started working around their yard. They thought maybe he dove into a bush. Like they don't know what was happening with the light. They're trying to keep a level head here. But how can you when you saw a kid disappear in a beam of light?
Think he got blasted by lightning? Ka-chow!
This wasn't lightning. It was like a beam of light that stuck on him. And then he floated. And then he disappeared.
So they're out there. They're looking for Tommy in the yard.
Yes.
Obviously, they can't find him because he disappeared.
Yes. And Tommy was the youngest of 5 brothers.
The Warner Brothers.
Yes. The Warner Brothers. Yes. And they started coming out looking for Tommy too. Like, where is he? He just disappeared? Well, here's the thing. Tommy remembers what happened. Tommy remembers being on the ship and waking up in a room. Here's the thing. He recognized someone on the ship. Melanie. He saw her crouched in the corner, with eyes of detrimental fear on her face. And he's just looking around this ship and he has no idea what's going on. But there's just other people on this craft. Next thing he knows, he's being laid down on the grass. He's in a beam of light being laid down on the grass. He said it was like a baby being laid down on a bed. And he remembers this bright light surrounding him. And then he hears his brother scream, "Run!" He couldn't move. He said, "I can't move. The beam's holding me." And then he heard a voice say in his head, "I'll be done in a minute." And then about a minute later, the beam shut off. Tommy slowly got up. He looked up, and in a second, the craft shut off with no sound. Tommy was gone for 7 minutes. So what happened, James?
That's a great question, Jake. What happened?
We have several witnesses that saw him get hit with a beam of light, disappear for 7 minutes, and get returned by the craft.
Why do you think they needed that extra minute after they beamed him back down?
I don't know, but
Why did they go for him inside of a house? Why did they tell him to go home? I mean, to get him outside, but if they can just teleport you anyways, they teleported Melanie out of the car, didn't they?
well, when people get abducted, and if they remember the actual getting beamed up, they report that they just go through objects like they're nothing.
Yeah.
Like they just phase through walls. The thing is that if we look at aliens like how we know or how we presume they are nowadays, they're more interdimensional than they are from outer space.
Yeah.
And so they could break our foundations of reality if we're joining them. Maybe it's like them trying, like the minute could be them trying to phase us back into our reality.
Sure, but then why did they need to beam up Tommy outside of the house instead of just taking him from inside of the house?
I don't know.
It seems like a step that could have been avoided.
I don't know. And the thing is that if it was just Tommy and no one was there, I would say he might be a little crazy. But because we have all these witnesses who saw him get beamed up, saw him running in place, his family saw him get put back down on the ground, it kind of helps things. All these people are lying. All these people with corroborating stories that saw this happen to him.
All the children with their fantastical imaginations?
They're not children. These people are all in their teens and early 20s. He was the youngest brother of I think 10 years or so. Some of his brothers were almost in their early 20s, late teens.
Right.
So it's not all children. I believe Jane Shaw was close to 18 years old, and Debbie Shaw was about 14. I don't know why they took Tommy the way they did. And I think them phasing through things like that is not the first time that that's been talked about, people phasing through objects. But it's also not the first time that...
Well, it seems more like teleportation than phasing through stuff.
Yes. And also, a lot of people report telepathy or being told things. There was actually an abduction back in the 90s of someone at 100 Mile House, British Columbia. And they were all in a car together being chased by a UFO. And she reported her whole car being calm. And a voice in her head telling her to remain calm. Like, we're not going to harm you. And then she looked over at the woman driving and said, "You need to pull over." And almost as if in a trance, the woman that was driving with her just pulled over without even looking at her. And that's a common thing that we hear about in some abduction cases like this.
Yeah, true enough. This seemed to be the exact opposite of that. Instead of stay calm, it was go home now.
We'll get into why that is.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm very interested in UFOs and stuff, but I can't tell you for sure why they do anything, obviously.
And here I thought you were the leading expert on UFO abductions.
I'm interested, but I don't think anyone can be. We only know what we know, and I don't think we can comprehend everything that happens to people. Like, why did they take Travis for 5 days and then bring him back? Why did they take Tommy for just 7 minutes? Doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, but again, in both those cases, we have several witnesses that saw them get hit with a beam of light.
It's definitely always the interesting thing.
Yeah, definitely. If there was no witnesses, it'd be less interesting. But because we have all these witnesses, it makes it more credible.
Which is really too bad. It'd be a lot easier just to call a kid a fucking liar and move on.
I know that's what you would prefer to do. Kid's lying, next.
Swamp gas and too much sugar.
Well, James, I'm sorry, but we're not done.
I'd hope not.
We have another abductee.
Is this one also a child?
A child, but with his whole family.
So before we go too much further, when did both of these abductions happen? Like time? Like, was it late at night? Was it evening, afternoon?
This all happened after dusk.
After dusk.
Yeah, they all happened after dusk. Although they were returned at different times. Tommy was in 7 minutes. I believe Melanie was missing a few hours of time.
And this is the same night?
All the same night. This all happened in the same night.
Right.
But then we go on to the case of Tom Reed. This is 6 miles south of Great Barrington. And Tom was with his family. His mom, Nancy, and his brother, Matthew, and their grandma. They're driving home from a dinner they had. It was a little later than they wanted it to be. So they decided to take a shortcut, crossing a bridge called the Sheffield Bridge, which is like one of those old school covered bridges. You know what I'm talking about? Like the wood ones you see?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like the movie Lawless, where they had that showdown.
Exactly.
My favorite kind of bridge.
It's a dope bridge, dude. So they're crossing the covered bridge, and Tom is in the middle of giving his brother candy. And his grandma turned around and said, "Don't do that. He's too young. He'll choke." That was like a very distinct thing. Their grandma turned around. But after she turned around, she noticed a bright light that seemed to be rising from the river. Now they all start seeing this light just gleaming in through the different wood beams on the bridge. But as they exited the bridge, they saw what they described as a light ball glowing above them. They said it was at least 2 stories tall, and it was rising, and as it was rising, it was firing different rods of light into the ground. And also, it was completely silent. Tom said as soon as they saw the craft, it felt different in the area. The quote is, "It felt like we were underwater. There was a complete pressure change." Nancy, Tom's mom, pulled the car over, and they all started looking out at the ball of light. But when they looked back, it was gone. But when Nancy looked forward, she saw that the craft was in front of them now. They saw a massive disc-shaped craft. Nancy Reed said it looked like if you turned a turtle shell sideways and faced it almost head-on. It had a bigger top and a smaller bottom and a ridge in the middle. Tom claimed that the craft had to be at least 300 yards wide.
What's that in English?
A yard is a meter.
300 meters. How big is a football field? We went over this last time, but I don't remember.
360-something yards?
So a little smaller than a football field.
Or 100-something yards? God damn it.
That's extremely different.
God damn it, I don't fucking know.
120 yards.
120 yards.
So it's closer to 3 football fields in length.
There you
similar
go.
to the thing they saw over Phoenix.
Exactly. I made a mistake. 100 yards, not 300.
Oh, there you go. A little smaller than a football field.
A little smaller than a football field. Still massive.
Still pretty big. Easier to see both sides of, though.
Easier to see both sides of. But I think the road that Jane Green was on was fairly narrow and
Right.
fairly rural because she was going between towns. So I could see why either side couldn't be seen. And also with the glare of how bright it was, it could add to how big they might have thought it was.
Yeah. I mean, when there's a bright light in your face, you're not going to see the parts that are in the darkness.
Now they're staring in awe at this thing when all of a sudden the entire car lights up like daylight. Tom remembers seeing all the dials on the dash and everything very distinctly, like it was just in the middle of the day. And at the same time, an eruption of crickets and frogs began all around them. And then they all blacked out. Except Tom remembers what happened to him on the ship. Tom woke up, splayed out on an operating table, and he wasn't alone. He was surrounded by strange creatures. He described them as like an ant with football-shaped heads and legs like bamboo.
Kind of like Arnold from Hey Arnold.
I think of vertical football, not a horizontal.
Or Stewie, I guess.
Oh man, I want to be in your brain right now. I wanted to see what you saw. No, vertical football.
Okay.
Now he's splayed out on this operating table when all of a sudden they place a heavy metal apparatus on his chest, similar to Travis Walton. and they began putting strange packets on him that he described as, quote, giant raisins. He remembers them sticking him with something in his shoulder and injecting a fluid that felt like, quote, boiling water going through his back and arms. He remembers screaming in pain, and he remembers all of the hurt and everything that he was feeling on the ship. And most terrifying, he remembers hearing his mom screaming for him in the background, but he couldn't look up and see her. And he remembers very well what the creatures looked like, and he actually got an artist to draw what he saw in the craft. You want to see that picture?
Yes, I love drawings of aliens. They're so hit and miss.
Oh,
Mostly miss. Most of them are fucking awful.
This one's a hit, brother. Here is the alien that Tom Reed saw on the craft.
That's not at all what I was picturing in my head.
It's kind of scary, ain't it? As you can see on the left, though, he also wrote down some of the hieroglyphics that he might have seen on the side of the walls.
Well, I'm gonna disregard the hieroglyphs.
Okay.
Because I don't see a child describing perfect hieroglyphs for someone to detail.
This wasn't like directly after. This was years after the event. This is when he was an adult.
Even worse. As for the alien, that is, I've never seen an alien depicted like that before. It's kind of like just like everything. I can tie this back to the Phantom Menace. The crawling guy that was racing Anakin.
Oh yeah. The main bad guy in the pod race.
Jaboba or something like that.
Yeah, Jaboba.
Jaboba.
Yeah.
It looks kind of like that, but the neck is a lot longer, and the head is like a kind of like a peanut, I guess.
Yeah.
You could describe it as in shape, but also the limbs are kind of more like stick buggy and longer, but the general shape is kind of like Jaboba.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. That's a good comparison.
And if you don't know what Jaboba looks like, go watch Phantom Menace, which is the best Star Wars movie ever released.
There goes our fans. Now, I will also post a picture of Jaboba so people can compare on our Instagram and Facebook. Now, here's the thing, James. We've learned about the Greys.
Yeah.
We've learned about the Nordics.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we all know about the reptilians. We haven't got into them yet.
Of course.
This is the other race of alien.
Okay, I was going to ask you if this is, because that's kind of what I go to is like, hey, does this ship or alien, is this something that we hear of more, or is this like a one-off unique type thing?
Yeah, so this is what they call the insectoids.
The insectoids.
They have ant-like heads and stick-bug-like bodies. Or they've also been compared to mantises. And the thing is about insectoids is, unlike Greys, they're a lot colder. So this goes back to your telepathy thing, when you were like, this guy's really blunt and, they make him go outside and they're almost commanding. Insectoids have been reported to be less caring of the individual they abduct.
I'd believe that.
Yes, they're a lot colder. They're a lot more, bring them aboard to the experiments. It doesn't matter if they feel pain. The Greys are a lot more, make them forget, calm them down, do the experiments, assure them they're safe, and then bring them back.
And then the Nordics are doing the blue steel from whatever that movie was.
Zoolander. Yes, and the Nordics are just there looking pretty. However, some of these aliens have been seen working together. Some Greys have been seen with insectoids, and some Greys have been seen with Nordics.
It's kind of like No Man's Sky, where there's just 3 races of aliens intermingling.
Yeah. However, insectoids are known for their cruelty. They'll just hurt you, and they won't feel. They see you more as a subject and less as a being.
Yeah.
And they're also known for their telepathy. This is a common thing people talk about with the mantis or insectoid races, is there's a lot more telepathy and a lot more bluntness in how they're talking to you.
Yeah.
And to me, when people say aliens and they show me a Grey, I'm like, yeah, okay. When people bring something like this up, I'm like, oh, that's an alien, brother.
I hope that's not real. My goodness.
It's terrifying. That's a pretty scary picture of an alien.
I mean, whatever it is, we should definitely go to war with it. I've never seen an alien so killable.
That definitely looks like a killable alien. I'll fully agree with you that. That's
it can't be good to have around.
No.
Just like insectoids in your kitchen. Get rid of them.
Now, insectoids do have that rep of being cold and cruel. Not as cruel as reptilians. Reptilians are seen as more just straight up evil.
Cold-blooded, if you will.
There you go. Perfect. These creatures have also been known to communicate through clicking sounds, other than telepathy. Now, He remembers these creatures working on him, his mom screaming, and him just being filled with pain. And then he blacked out. And they woke up. Here's the thing. They woke up in front of a drugstore, 1.2 miles away from where they were.
All of them?
All of them, in the same car. Here's the problem. Grandma was in the driver's seat, and Nancy was in the passenger seat. Grandma doesn't have a license. And Nancy was driving. And also the ignition was off when it was on when they got abducted. I think this is hilarious that they just saw all the humans like they looked the same and accidentally swapped the grandma and the mom. And also over a mile away from where they last were. What do you think of that?
What do I think of that?
It's too early for me to give you something like this.
Yeah, it's barely the afternoon here on a Monday. Also, happy Family Day to everybody. It's probably a month and a half, 4 months late.
Don't flake from this. Don't tell me what you think about what's happening.
I don't know what's happening, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at that and I'm like, do I think aliens that look like that are real? Everything in my body is telling me, no, probably not, hopefully not. I don't know. That's disgusting. The photo is still in front of me. I'm still just looking at the insectoid.
It's a crazy thing to look at.
It is a crazy thing. It's crazy.
Yeah. And again, if it was just one person that was taken by a spacecraft.
How old is Tom?
At this time, Tom was 10.
Okay, another 2 10-year-old Toms.
Yes. Here's the thing, is that if it was just Tom, just one 10-year-old kid with no witnesses, I would say active imagination. Of course, I'd look into what other things around it, because I'm open with what people say about alien abductions, but active imagination. The fact that we have the grandma, the mom, and his brother, who were also abducted, is insane.
And they all remember this as well?
They remember being on the craft and stuff like that as well, but not as much as Tom. Tom remembers it more. But they all remember the craft, they all remember being abducted, and they all remember being brought back in front of the drugstore over a mile from where they were abducted. And they all corroborated that the grandma and the mom were switched.
The thing that still concerns me, like even with all these witnesses, is, you know, when you have children and something traumatic or something happens or they don't know what they're seeing, their imaginations can still fill in lots of blanks because they don't know what's happening. So I'm wondering how much of this is like just trauma-induced, not necessarily real memories, just kind of fill in the blank stuff.
Now, I would agree with you on that.
Yeah.
That I think that's 100% true. Sometimes kids will fill in the trauma blanks, you know?
Yeah, and not even intentionally. It's just...
No, it just happens.
Yeah.
That's what your brain does.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, is that other people report these kinds of creatures and the same sort of interactions. And we have other people in the same night all being abducted and people recognizing one another on the craft. And here's the thing that's even stranger, is Melanie, who was abducted first, she didn't know Tom Warner. But Tom knew her because she was a few years older than Tom. It's a small town. It's like in the entire county, there's 150,000 people.
Right.
However, after this event, Melanie did meet Tom. And she felt there was a strange connection, almost as if they were siblings. And they kind of like knew something about each other. That's another thing you hear about other abductees. There's other abductees of people who have never contacted one another. And when they see each other in public, just by happenstance, there's some sort of strange attachment that they have with one another.
There's maybe a tiny bit of a telepathy unlocked or something.
Maybe. Or just like a recognizing of the face. Like sometimes you see a face that you just know from somewhere.
Yeah,
you
for sure.
Can't place where.
For sure.
Again, if it was just Tom that got abducted and just made the story, I would say, yeah, maybe a trauma response to something that happened. But several people were abducted, and we have tons of witnesses.
You didn't snap a photo of this craft?
No. Here's the thing about that. Remember how we've talked about in the Oakville blobs and other cases in small towns? If something doesn't get out, it stops after the report. You know, no internet, no phones, nothing like that.
Yeah.
There allegedly were reports to the police, but if you go back to the reports from that day, they still have the actual folder books of things that were reported that day. There was a report of a man drinking too much, and one other thing that was very lackluster. Nothing of a UFO. However, a lot of people that heard these UFO stories just chalked them up as bullshit and didn't report them. Because we also have reports to the local newspaper And nothing was reported on about this thing. And when people asked about why was there no UFO reporting, it's because the editors of the newspaper thought it was such a bullshit story, they didn't even bother to listen to anyone who called in about it. They thought all these people were lying. Even the chief of police, Santi Galata, he got several reports the next day of people who saw crafts in the sky. Many people all over several towns in Berkshire County reported that there was crafts landing in farmers' fields and shooting off in the air or shooting beams down onto the ground. And they all told Santi Galata, and he said it's all bullshit. Didn't even bother to look into it.
So all these stories then are just stories from supposedly people that were there that got out?
Yes. But the thing is that lots of people saw it. Lots of people in the area saw it. There's other people who have come out since the stories have slowly come out that said they saw these crafts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not much of a fan of people coming out of the woodwork. You see it all the time in different things, and I don't know, say something when it happened, or I don't know.
Yeah, but all these people...
It's a lot harder to believe people years and years after the fact, and when it's just kind of could be a bandwagon thing. Not saying that every one of these is, but in terms of people after the fact being, oh yeah, I saw that too, for sure.
That is possible. But a lot of people did see it and came out like anonymously or tried to talk to the police and just didn't take the report down.
Yeah.
The two Toms...
It's another kind of something that I want to be difficult to believe is like how many people come forward and you say, nah. It's one of those things that makes it hard to believe. Kind of like the our werewolf episode there where they called the police and the operator was like, nah. Makes it harder to believe, in my opinion. I don't know what the police were like in Massachusetts in 1969, but...
Well, they're obviously
I like
skeptical.
to think if there was tons of reports, then there would have been something written down somewhere.
Apparently there's reports to the newspaper. Apparently there were people who called the police. Like the radio guy, Tom J., the director of the radio station, did call the police. And his call wasn't taken down. But he was a skeptic, and he called the police about it. Because he was wondering if maybe it was just some, like, not an alien, but like, what if it was something that was invading us, like in the country?
Yeah.
And his report wasn't taken down. But he did call them. And the weirder part is that from that night, like they record all of their broadcasts, right? That night, those recordings have all been erased.
Convenient.
Now they claim that they just record over certain tapes at times, but it's convenient that it was the night an entire city got abducted by aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this was in the late days of Project Blue Book.
Like mission accomplished.
Mm-hmm. This one was quieted down real quick. And honestly, it should be talked about more. And Tom and his mom and his brother and his grandma were all missing 3 hours of time. And they have no idea what happened in those 3 hours. Tom, of course, has glimpses. Some of them have glimpses of memories. His mom, Nancy, says she doesn't want to even look into it because she's so scared about what happened that night. And a harder part about the Reed family is Nancy was a single mother. And after this, they were already not liked because they came from New York to a small town. And, city people coming to a small town in the United States, it's a big deal. Like, they're outsiders, right? So they were already kind of berated and like attacked for what they were. But after this, Nancy was getting tailgated home by random people. She at one point had her car tailgated all the way up to the top of her driveway before they would leave. She even had a man expose himself in the diner that she owned, saying, quote, "If you wanted to see something out of this world, here it is." Yeah, they got so much harassment from this. They actually left the town. Nancy moved there to give her kids a new life because they wanted to start new after their dad left. And they couldn't stay. They said that it was their dream town. They loved it there. And because they were so strongly harassed, they left. And they never got back. So yeah, she sold her diner and just left.
Huh. I'm walking here.
That's all you have to say.
Well, damn, hey?
There's a lot of reports from unconnected people.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate there's like nothing more official though, right? It's the hard one. Because you got to take the step back and you got to say, this is stories from people almost 60 years ago.
Yeah.
You got to take a step back and just kind of look at it too and be like, okay, it's a hard hurdle to get over.
It is, but we have reports from several towns in the area of massive crafts in the sky.
So, and there was no police reports in any of these other towns either?
There was no police reports at the Great Barrington police station,
Right.
but I couldn't find the reports of any of the other ones. Not that they're not there, but they weren't looked into. Because lots of this happened in Great Barrington, but there was other towns like Sheffield, and I think there was about 8 other towns and then one town outside of state in Connecticut that reported these massive crafts, all similar, tall crafts, saucer shaped with the ridge.
Yeah.
Or with giant lights. This many reports makes it hard with people who aren't connected, because this was like people coming in independently without knowing the other reports that happened. These are people who were abducted without knowing other people were abducted. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 abductions at least. And when Melanie was on the ship, she saw other kids too. And how many of those didn't want to come forward? Because even Tommy Warner didn't like telling the story. He told it for a bit, but he got so ridiculed that he stopped. Because he was seen as, quote, the Black Plague after he talked about being abducted by the aliens. But he wasn't the only one. And we've seen this with other cases where people ridicule, like in the Phoenix Lights. Everyone ridiculed Frances Barwood, who said, well, are we not going to talk about this craft in the sky? And then all those people who ridiculed her came out 10 years later saying, yeah, we saw it too.
True enough, but that also still had statements, that had newspaper reports, that had videos, that had the whole 9 yards. It was a lot more recent. It was 97.
But not till 3 months later, after so many people started coming out talking about it.
Well, you said the police stations and the UFO reporting place were just flooded with calls.
They had a lot more calls, and it was a bigger area.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that Phoenix is a population of a few million.
Yeah.
You know? Berkshire County has a population of 150,000. The entire county.
So that's still a good chunk of people.
Yeah, but think about, so in a few million people in Phoenix, tens of thousands called in or witnessed it. And 700 calls were at the UFO Reporting Center. UFO Reporting Center wasn't around back in the 60s. And a lot of these people didn't have like cell phones. In the 90s, we had cell phones. So people could call on the street. Back then, you just had a home phone. A lot of people are seeing this out in the field or out while they're driving. You know, they didn't have phones. They couldn't call anyone.
And there's no accounts of like, I don't know, agents or anything walking around or interviewing people or none of that stuff other than that one guy that flashed in the diner?
Not from what I could find. Because it was so shut down. Like, they called...
Like, shut down by who, how, when? Like, this is like, as it's happening, people are calling the police and nothing's happening.
Yes, and the police are just not looking into it. I couldn't find anything on any sort of agents or anything. Doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Yeah.
But I couldn't find anything on it. But because so many people that were higher up, the people that contacted for emergencies were they just threw it out. And instantly, the newspapers threw it out. The newspapers who need money on amazing stories didn't want to put it in the newspaper because, quote, they thought it was a bunch of hooey.
It's a tough one. There's just things that point to either direction on this in terms of stuff making sense or not making sense and people's reactions and everything. I don't know.
There's several people who have missing time and people who recognize each other on the craft.
Well, a couple of people that recognize each other on the craft.
Still, as far as we know, there were several kids reported on the craft. And these reports were all over Western Massachusetts and Connecticut. So, you know, how many kids didn't come out? How many stories are there in Connecticut or other states around the area that weren't connected to Berkshire? Berkshire is just where the story focused, kind of like the Phoenix Lights. It focused on Phoenix, but there were sightings from Utah, Nevada, all the way down to Texas.
And it's only the kids that remember being on the craft?
They're the ones that talked about it.
Yeah.
The adults just say they don't want to talk about it.
Right. Yeah, they're not doing the case any favors by doing that.
They don't want to talk about it. Nancy has talked about the craft. They've all talked about seeing the craft. They all talked about missing time.
Have they described the craft?
Yeah, the Nancy, Tom's mom described it as a turtle shell.
No, but sorry, I meant like the inside of the craft. The people that have memories from inside of it. Was there any descriptions of the interior?
They just described being on lots of them were on surgical tables.
Yeah.
And it was like described as like shiny, metallic sort of craft.
Yeah, it's weird. They're abducted for different amounts of time.
Yeah.
They're placed in different spots. That one kid was held down for an extra minute on the ground after the fact.
Yeah.
They beamed some people out of the cars, but they got the other kid to go out of the house before beaming him up. I don't know. It's all weird.
It is.
I always kind of like to, this is aside from this case specifically, like, why do they keep abducting people? Surely after tens of thousands of years of human beings being around, they've surely known about us for a while, the aliens. Are they just like keeping out tabs on seeing how we evolve over time or what? I'm not sure.
Well, of course, we don't really know.
Yep.
But a lot of people have reported either they are trying to send a message of less nuclear weapons, taking care of the planet. Some people report that they are here to just, tag them. Kind of like how we do with animals. Get some studies going on them. And then there's some people that
If
claim
they can find Tom in the house, they don't need they can observe from afar.
they do observe from afar, but they just know where they are. Some people report being abducted several times.
And also, like, why go for awake people or whatever? Why not go for people who are sleeping? It's already nighttime.
Well, some people do get abducted in their sleep. We're not there yet. There's a lot of cases of people being abducted in their sleep. The other thing is they talk about breeding programs. That allegedly a lot of these races have a problem with their population, and they use human reproductive organs and fluids and such to help their population grow. Which is something we kind of saw in the Betty and Barney Hill case, where they took Barney's sperm and they also injected needles into the belly button of Betty. They perform a lot of stuff in that area. So we don't really know, of course, but these are all theories.
Huh, how about that?
I know this is going to be a weird one.
It's definitely put me in a weird spot.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to just disregard it because it's just stories from people 60 years ago.
If it was just one person, I could see why you could.
Yeah.
It's just all these disconnected people that all reported it.
Yeah, and that's the too bad part.
Yeah.
Because it's not supported by much else other than that.
Yeah.
Was there anything more you had to share or were maybe thinking about sharing with it?
That's basically the whole story.
Yeah.
I just think that it's crazy how similar it is to other abductions. Like Travis Walton also had a big metal piece on him when they were analyzing him. They were also on this strange operating table.
Yeah, but it was completely different aliens that had Travis.
Doesn't mean the technology isn't the same.
Yeah.
Other countries have missiles.
We look a lot more similar to people in other countries, though.
Yeah, but still. Here's an example. We have toilets all over the world. If the technology works, other people are going to use it.
Okay, toilets look different all over the world. And by all over, I mean a couple places.
Yes, but they still work the same. Just like a chess piece to pin down a abductee. If it works, it works.
Yeah. Tungsten cube just to hold someone down.
Yeah, I guess so. They figured it out.
Yeah.
Took a million years. But I just think a lot of the abductions are similar to other reports, and these insectoids have been seen in other reports. And there's just so many people that claim they saw it or were abducted by something, and people who saw people get abducted.
Yeah.
That's just what I think. And to add on top of it, Jane, the initial story that we talked about, when she got home, she had 2 boys who were getting babysat. And she didn't want to say anything because she didn't want to scare them. So she kept it quiet until the Netflix documentary. Then she talked to both of them, they're adults now, and said, "Boys, I'm going to be on a Netflix show talking about a strange craft I saw 50 years ago. And I just want you to know that I saw this craft. I'm not crazy. I just want to, so you're not shocked that I'm there." And both of their boys went, "You saw it too?" They also saw the craft over their house. Both of them were wrestling in the backyard and saw the craft and didn't want to tell their mom so they didn't scare her. And she just figured it out in 2020 when they were doing this documentary.
How old was she at this point?
Back then?
No, at this point, or with the documentary point.
A documentary point. She looked like she was in her 70s.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Maybe early 80s.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's an older woman. But she was adamant that what she saw, which is what she saw. And her report is the most down to earth out of all of them.
Right. Obviously, this is the first time we've had the insectoids show their weird-looking heads.
Mm-hmm.
I assume there's more coming down the road that have them?
Yep.
Okay.
That's what I mean, is that this isn't an outlandish alien.
Yeah.
And also, Tom Warner also painted his experience, if you want to see the painting.
Oh, yes. Why have you been holding this, or why have you not been showing me this?
I forgot to show you it. You might like to see Tom's painting.
Painting 10-year-old child did of an alien.
No, he did this in his adult years. He said that it was therapeutic for him because he couldn't get over it.
That looks as stereotypical UFO beaming up someone as you can get.
And that's what other people reported.
What do you think the significance of the shape is for something that can just move through dimension or space-time or whatever?
Couldn't tell you. Don't know. But if it works, it works. And that's
does it spin or is it just stationary?
Some are reported to spin, some are reported stationary. I think they more stay stationary. I think the spinning was an idea that was brought up in B movies
Yeah.
because they would be on strings. So
Yeah.
you'd see the saucer kind of going like this. So people would start reporting that they spun.
What do you think the significance of the bright lights are? Not the beaming people up, but just the high beaming people driving.
I think it's like a deer in the headlights. Like it stops them in their tracks. I think it's like maybe like a mesmerizing thing. Because the lights are also something people report in other UFO cases. Like it's a common thing. These bright lights just ignite the entire area that they're in.
Yeah.
And have you ever seen the movie Encounters of the Third Kind?
No, actually, I've been meaning to, but I've never seen it.
Okay, so it's a really interesting thing to
You mean Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
yes, sorry, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's a really interesting movie.
Yep.
Because they claim that is the closest example of what real UFO encounters is like. And the reason is because Steven Spielberg had an advisor on the set. That advisor? J. Allen Hynek, the head of Project Blue Book, former head of Project Blue Book. Lots of the information he would correct or change based on what he'd reported on or the files in Project Blue Book.
Yeah.
And so that's why the gray aliens are such a staple in that movie, because they based on what other people saw, and the lights are what other people saw. So I don't know, but it's something that people commonly report, and I think maybe it's just like a mesmerizing thing.
Yeah, could be. Did any of these people have any sort of radiation sickness or anything? So that seems to be a semi-common thing with UFO encounters,
Mhm.
and especially these people are getting beamed up by something. You'd
Mhm.
think maybe something along the lines of that would maybe show up.
As far as I could tell, no radiation sickness.
Mhm.
There's a few abductions where they don't have radiation sickness.
It's definitely inconsistent with when it seems to show up, I would say.
I think radiation sickness is more due to when they're outside the craft. If they get too close outside the craft,
Yeah.
then there's some radiation sickness. However, when they're inside the craft, it's less of a thing. And that's why like a lot of abductions, like the craft's not so close. Sometimes it's far away and it still beams them up and then they don't get the radiation sickness. Like how it was with lots of these cases. They weren't right next to the craft. The craft was above them quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then they got beamed up. However, like if you look at like Travis Walton or Betty Barney Hill, they were right beside the craft when they got beamed up. And they had more radiation sickness or effects physically like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's how it changes.
Interesting stuff.
Very interesting stuff. One of my favorite UFO cases. And when I had two cases for you today and I was researching this one, I was like, oh boy, this might ruin his day.
You definitely you start at least a third of our episodes with "You're going to hate me" or "This is going to ruin your day" or something along those lines.
Usually I'm right.
Yeah.
Well, with that, you want to go to conclusions?
Let's
do it. So today, James, on the case of the Berkshire UFO Incident, we have several witnesses that claim to see a massive craft in the sky. Several witnesses that claimed they were on the ship after an abduction. Several people who claimed that they have missing time after the abduction. And we even have some people that recognized other people on the ship. We have reports of insectoid-like beings that have been reported in other abduction cases. And although many of the reports through police were not recorded, we still have several people in the town that did report seeing something, not just in the county, but across state lines. So today, on our scale from 1 to 5, 1, I'm an idiot. 2, you're skeptical. 3, you're on the fence. 4, there's something strange here. And 5, Berkshire County was invaded by a mothership UFO. Where do you come down to today?
Damn, this is a tough one to put a number on. You know, honestly, I guess I'd have to fall down to somewhere around a 3.
A 3?
Maybe. Like maybe this is kind of like, I guess, like a 2.9, I would say.
What?
2.9 to a 3.
Oh my gosh.
3.
That's way too low than I thought.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's, like I say, there's a lot of people saying stuff, but it's also just a bunch of stories of something that happened 60 years ago and nothing official to go along with it.
Other than several calls over several over several towns and across state lines.
Calls to who? There's no recordings of it?
Calling into the radio station that conveniently got erased.
Yeah, how convenient.
Mm-hmm. And we have several people unattached that all got abducted and recognize each other on a craft.
Yeah, it's a 3. I'm having a hard time fully buying into this one, unfortunately.
Okay.
3.
Okay, we're at a solid
on the
3.
fence, because it's
Okay.
Solid it's a 3. Tough one.
It is.
You can't expect a story to ruin my day and then also expect a 5 out of it.
I thought it would pull you a little more, but that's okay. I'm a 5.
Yeah.
This absolutely 100% happened, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's too many unattached abductions in the area and too many people that all report the same sort of thing in one night that something had to have happened. I don't think it's all mass hysteria. And we do have phone calls. The recorded phone calls we have are from the radio station. But unfortunately, the tapes were erased.
Yeah, so we don't have recorded phone calls.
But according to Tom J., who was on the air, and people remember him being on the air asking about the UFO reports and getting calls, they all said this happened. And then the tapes were erased.
Yeah, it's too bad. It really is.
It really is, because that would be the smoking gun, in my opinion.
It would definitely help a lot. When you have the recordings, either video or audio, of people talking about stuff when it happened, obviously it's always a lot more convincing than stuff after the fact.
Yeah.
And the further away you get from it, the less and less believable it becomes, because it's just mythology at that point.
Fair enough. Damn. Sorry, I thought I could get you over the fence with this one. Damn it.
That's okay, maybe next time.
Probably not.
Probably not.
Thank you for listening, everybody. I couldn't get James over the fence this week, but I got him right to it on the Berkshire UFO Incident. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok for all of the case photos. The link is in the description of every episode and our podcast description. If you enjoy what we're doing here, please rate and follow on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, or wherever you listen to the podcast. It really goes a long way. And also, share with your friends. Word of mouth is the best advertisement, and it's free. And if you have any case ideas, or if you have evidence from your own cases, or if I missed something, you can email us at darkdosandpod@gmail.com. With that, James, any words to the wise?
Don't believe anything you see on the internet anymore. None of it's real. It's all AI if it's under 30 seconds.
Wise words from a wiser man. I agree with you. Thank you for listening, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye-bye.